Welcome to Her Fantasy Football. You can hear us on Blog Talk Radio /Her Fantasy Football and on iTunes. You can also hear us on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Saturday night from 8 to 10 Eastern. Make sure to subscribe to us on HerFantasyFootball.com so you can be part of our dice game from FanDuel. We give you fun ingredients, 4 of them in fact, and you get to set your lineup for free. So come and join us at HerFantasyFootball.com. Also, you can chat with us on Twitter at HerFantasyFB and on Facebook.com /HerFantasyFootball. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Marianne Lee.
Week 13. Last
Unlucky
week before
15.
The playoffs.
Yep.
This is intense. I made a lot of moves today.
Did you?
I did.
I missed out on all the waiver wire. It was bad.
I didn't get anything off the waiver. Nobody let me get anything. So I said, okay, forget it. And today I just picked up like crazy. I changed like all of my kickers. I did. I changed like all of them. I got like rid of everyone.
Wow.
It's just like
Bold.
I know. No, I'm like really I'm like ready. Totally into it. I picked up a defense because St. Louis is awful.
Yeah.
You gotta
feel bad for them.
I know. You like keep
happened?
pulling for them. You're like, it's gonna happen. But when you have injuries, they just couldn't get it together. The offense is so bad that.
And Jeff Fisher can kiss my.
Yep. Sometimes you just gotta move on. And week 13 for me was my week to just move on, cut ties, hit reality. We're going into playoffs. We need a miracle in some leagues, right? So let's just get straight into it. Thursday night's game. We got the Green Bay Packers 7-4 at the Detroit Lions 4-7.
Yeah. Well, Detroit beat Green Bay on their home turf, so Green Bay is hoping to do the same to Detroit this week. And maybe. Ty Montgomery has already been ruled out for tomorrow night's game due to his ankle injury, and so has tackle Brian Bulaga, which isn't good. No, actually he hasn't. I'm sorry. No. Sorry, I don't mean to freak you out. He didn't practice. He's questionable.
Okay.
There you go. Sorry. I'm going off the rails already.
I was like, that's
Team
not
one.
great.
Team one.
Wow. So bring a tear to your eye. Jordy Nelson, let's talk about him for a second. Supposedly he is ahead of schedule, though. His knee injury, he's rehabbing, he's looking great. He believes he will be full participant at training camp this summer. Not playoffs, guys.
Hey, thanks for your yearly update,
I thought like
Jordy.
it was going to be some like freak recovery. And you're like,
Hey, guys, I'm an AP. What'd you
He's
know?
going to be great. He's going to be great.
Hey, it's a big deal. Big doings. Here's the deal. He's at every practice, though, to try to help the wide receivers. And, man, did they need help. Davante Adams is supposedly still bothered by that ankle injury, according to his wide receiver coach. Still, he had more drops last week, 3, than he had catches, 2.
But that's still a third of the drops that Mike Evans would have. So it could be worse.
Could be Mike Evans. When the Packers played the Lions in Week 9, that was the big 21 target game for Davante Adams, where he caught 10 of them, less than 50%, for 79 yards. James Jones had 0 catches on 2 targets, but that's because he was blanketed by Darius Slay. Darius Slay is this guy who's really emerged as a shutdown corner this year for Detroit, and he's part of the reason that they're making this big turnaround. So good for them. Way to go, Detroit. And Randall Cobb caught 5 of his 10 targets against Detroit last time as well for 53 yards. So in general, the wide receiving core is just not happening. The Lions have allowed only 2 touchdowns and no more than 79 yards to receive to an opposing wideout since Week 8.
Randall Cobb might be one of the biggest disappointments.
That's what I was going to say. He's been such
Yeah.
a disappointment this year.
It's really
Who
sad.
knew he needed Jordy Nelson like that?
I know, especially when Jordy went out. I was like, woo, Cobb stock
He is
just
the
rose.
He is the Eric Decker of.
Yeah. He needs to be the the wide receiver, too.
He does. He has to be a wide receiver, too. He cannot be a wide receiver 1. He is great as a wide receiver 2. He's not good as a wide receiver 1.
You know what, though, guys?
It's crazy that happens to people, but it's true.
Lesson learned. But the good news is Jordy has given us the update for next year. That,
Next year is going to be
he'll still be in his wide receiver 2 role then, so he'll be fine.
Yeah.
We just need David Cobb to give us the update that actually he's already projected to look good for the 2016-2017 fantasy football season.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see here. So we got week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There are 5 weeks left. Randall Cobb is at 627 receiving yards, which shocks me. I thought he was at a lot less than that.
Yeah, me too.
That is true.
How many touchdowns on the season? Do you have that pulled up?
Probably like 3 or 4.
I do. 6.
Wow, he is better than I thought.
But he got like 2. I think he got 2 in one game, like a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's a boomer bust player right now. It's a little upsetting. Detroit gives up the 10th most fantasy points to tight ends, so you can start Richard Rodgers as a desperate play. He did catch a touchdown the last time that these two teams matched up. Yeah. He scored 22 points last time.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So
Hard
I
to
don't know if
bet
he's going to do that exactly, but I'm saying some of you, because of the injuries this week, in particular to tight ends, I could understand it. Eddie Lacy has had back-to-back games of 100-plus yards. Yeah. But those are his only 100-plus yard games of the season. So don't kick yourself for having not started him. You shouldn't have. But now you should.
It's time. He's back.
All right, Lions.
Guys, Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, we're back to elite status.
The Philadelphia Eagles are terrible.
I mean, they are awful. Stafford threw over 337 yards, so he reached the 300 mark. I was 1 week off, but I told you he was on his way to back to 300-plus yards status, and he did it. He had 5 touchdowns. 5. And Calvin Johnson had 8 catches for 93 yards and 3 of those 5 touchdowns. So they're back in their groove. I feel good about it. I love it. Now, I got to get my Jim Bob Cooter in.
Yeah, you do. Don't we all?
We all do. And in the last 3 weeks, under offensive quarter, Jim Bob Cooter, because I don't need to say it twice, Stafford has gone 73 for 111, which is 65% completion rating, for 861 yards and 8 touchdowns with only 1 interception in the last 3 weeks. I feel fantastic about that. Sometimes you need to sit there, especially this time of year when you're looking at players, and look only at the last 3 weeks. 3-4 versus the whole season sometimes, because he's a great example of, you look at everything, it's not going to look fantastic, but he's gotten into a bit of a better groove at the back end of the season. So he's that kind of guy. I feel good about him. I like it. Now, Joique Bell, he had a season high, which is sadly only 82 yards, which is still great for running back, but he did have a touchdown. But then Theo Riddick caught 5 passes for 62 yards and also had a touchdown. And then Amir Abdullah had 16 carries, which for the team high rushing was with 63 yards, plus a catch for 12. So what does this tell you? It tells you, A, that the Eagles are awful and they were able to just pound it against the Eagles, and B, it tells you that we still have no idea who's going to get the ball. They're very much in a committee, and you shouldn't look to any of these guys as being an incredibly risky play for you right before the playoffs, because any one of them could zero out on you as well. So I don't like it. Injury update, Lance Moore's ankle is expected to miss this week, so he's out. Golden Tate, he's listed as probable. So if you needed to go real deep, again, that's a risky play. I would go Golden Tate out of them and hope for the best.
I started Golden Tate in 2 leagues last week, and I felt great.
But the Packers give up the 9th fewest points to wide receivers, so it's not a great matchup.
I know.
But
I'm in an 8-man
league.
I'm in an 8-man league, and I've been streaming quarterbacks, which I've never done before this year, and I picked up Matthew Stafford to play last week, and I felt really good about that.
You should.
Picked up Ryan Tannehill this week, guys.
Fingers
crossed.
Never trust Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
You may not trust him. I only need him for 1 week. Only 1 week, and I've been very successful in this league with quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Stafford.
All right.
There's Derek Carr I threw in there. All right, guys, let's move on to the Sunday morning games. The New York Jets 6-5, and the New York Giants 5.
Well, if you're streaming quarterbacks, was Ryan Fitzpatrick not
available? Surprisingly not. Fitzy was not available.
Okay, I was going to say, because he's a better option than Tannehill. Fitzy was a top 5 quarterback last week, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Top 5. He was 22 of 37 passes for 277 yards and 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns over the win over the Dolphins. This is another delicious matchup. They give the 4th most points to quarterbacks, so he could very well have a repeat week just like this again. And I said I wouldn't hate it if you're streaming quarterbacks. So like Courtney's doing, it's not a bad option if you want to look and see if Fitzy's on your waiver wire this week. He was just like handing out touchdowns like candy last week. Brandon Marshall had 9 catches for 131 yards. He had a crazy great game, and he had 2 touchdowns. Eric Decker, per usual, snuck in a touchdown because that's what he does. He's the best wide receiver, too, in the league.
You do you,
Especially-
Dicker.
Especially with Alan
You
Burns
do
out.
you.
62 yards, he's fantastic. You got to always play him. And even Devin Smith, after getting totally called out by Bulls, he stepped it up and 33 yards and his first career touchdown. So it could be another repeat week like that. This defense gives up a lot of touchdowns. So I like it. Ivory had a good game as well. He had 87 yards and a touchdown. And this week could be it again. The Giants give up the 10th most points against the rush. So Ivory, I think, is going to throw up double digits again this week. I like the Jets a lot.
All right. Well, first thing we know for sure is that you are starting Odell Beckham Jr. Last week he had 142 yards and a touchdown. The Jets give up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers, so this is a no-brainer. On that note, you will see that Ruben Randall found the end zone for the 4th time this year. He did see 6 targets, which is great, but only caught 1 pass, so that's not great. Take that as you will, but in deep leagues, again, they give up the 8th most fantasy points, so if you need to start them, I understand. As well as Dwayne Harris. I'm not benching anyone for them, for those 2 particular players in a 10-man league or less. But if you have multiple wide receivers, like some leagues, you can definitely insert them there. 12-man, 14, 16, I get it, totally. Tight end Will Tye had an amazing 8 targets, 6 receptions against a tough defense to tight ends, and the Jets give up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to tight ends. But again, with that many targets, it's possible that he could be an okay start in deep leagues. This is kind of a deep league kind of situation here. Not a great matchup for running backs. They give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to running backs, and the Giants running backs suck anyways, so
Yeah.
I'm not into any of them, per usual. Eli Manning had 3 interceptions last week. That's
Per usual.
That's what it is. Per usual. I don't think you can just trust him going into the playoffs, you guys. It's playoffs time, and there just are better options out there. The Jets have been able to get 6 turnovers in the last 4 weeks from quarterbacks. And since Eli loves to turn the ball over, who knows? They might get 6 out of him alone next week. So I'm not into it.
To play the Jets D.
Yeah. Well, no, they're going to score. I mean, it just depends. It just depends. Yeah, they're going to get a turnover or 2. Jets defense is definitely a great defense you can play. Arizona Cardinals 9-2 at St. Louis Rams 4-7.
Which is miraculous, by the way. They deserve
Right.
0 wins.
Really, it's really good.
You can kiss my...
Last week was a tough week for the Cardinals. Oh my gosh, I don't know what it is. People are just like not preparing for the 49ers or something.
It's amazing.
Crazy. It's like they think it's a bye week.
They do.
They
It's no
do.
big deal. Bye week.
And it was when Colin Kaepernick was playing.
It's true.
To be fair.
Too soon? Too soon?
Too soon.
And FYI, if you weren't watching football last weekend, Chris Johnson has been placed on IR after breaking his leg last week.
That
He's the
might
worst, you guys.
That might have completely knocked me out of some playoffs. contention.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because I wasn't able to pick people up on the waivers, and it was just like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, he's still available. David Johnson, pick him up. He's only owned in 42% of Yahoo leagues, which is just crazy to me. Hello, it's playoffs. Pay attention. Bruce Arians says he feels confident with David Johnson, so it could be a good play this week. He had 12 fantasy points in Week 4 while sharing the ball with Chris Johnson, against St. Louis. So Andre Ellington is still sidelined at practice, and Arians does not believe it. He's going to play. So it's just David Johnson behind center, guys. Carson Palmer was able to pull out 17.44 fantasy points last week, which is amazing for how bad Arizona played. This may be a very similar game, though, for Palmer. The Rams give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, and Palmer only had just under 16 fantasy points when they played last. So
It's
I
a
don't
sad
want
thing
to
to say, though.
Carson Palmer because he's the most consistent quarterback in the league, but I am sitting Carson Palmer, and you may want to stream some quarterback, Fitzpatrick, Tannehill, if you need to.
I just don't know if I have the stomach for Tannehill.
I would hate to lose and not make the playoffs because I started Tannehill. who has burned us all year. He could have a great game, and maybe it's worth rolling the dice. But aren't you going to be so mad, Courtney, if you stream Tannehill and then he gets you 5 points?
He won't.
Huh?
I'm in a league where I have Drew Brees and Carson Palmer, and they both have terrible matchups.
Oh.
Terrible matchups.
I later on I'm going to tell you not to play Breeze.
I know. This is my problem.
Oh no!
I'm telling you guys. All right, lots of weapons for the Cardinals, but again, very tough matchup. So the Rams give up the third fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. Larry Fitzgerald only had 66 yards, but was targeted 14 times and caught 10 of them when they faced each other. John Brown had 5 receptions and 7 targets, and Michael Floyd was off. Is off the injury report, you guys. Excuse me, that was from last week. So with all 3 of them on the field when they play them in week 4, tons of targets, but not a lot of fantasy points, you guys. It's just the way it was. I'm not saying it's going to be that this way because obviously the St. Louis Rams are not the same defense that they were at the beginning of the season. So, feel free to start your studs. And you don't have any better options, do it. But if you have some sneaky plays, this might be the person you want to bench. Maybe like a John Brown or definitely a Michael Floyd. So just throwing that out there. It's going to be a little bit rougher ride. You are definitely starting the Cardinals defense for sure. The St. Louis Rams give up the 4th most fantasy points to defenses, and they had 10 fantasy points last week, so they're good to go. Do it.
Speaking of the Cardinals not preparing for the 49ers like all teams do, Nick Foles is no Blaine Gabbert, so that's the good news.
Yeah. He's imploded. I don't know what is going on with this guy.
Well, that's what's crazy. So he's definitely struggled in his return to the starting role. Now, granted, it was a temporary starting role because Case Keenum was out with a concussion, and but we don't know if Case Keenum's going to play this week. So it's possible that Nick Foles will play this week again. But he was 30 for 46 and 228 yards, along with 3 interceptions, which is not good, but doesn't sound horrendous on paper. But when you're watching him, it's like such an implosion, right? It's like,
terrible.
Ooh, it's bad. It's really bad. And speaking of implosion, Todd Gurley had the game that we were all fearing and got only 19 yards rushing.
You don't need to defend anything else.
It was painful. It's true, but he still has been able to break out all season. You've never had to defend anybody all season with the Rams, and he still was doing great. What I'm going to say is while he has a tough matchup this week, you still have to play him. You rode him to the playoffs, and this was his first bad game. So stick with him. Don't completely panic. You don't have a choice. You drafted him high, and he has done well. He's had one bad week. One. Put it out of your head. You have to. You have to completely block that off. Now, Tavon Austin, which is not synonymous with Brandon to me, because she is a Tavon Austin defender and lover. For whatever reason.
He's the worst.
Oh, I know. I think he's the worst, too.
The best!
But
he's the worst.
He had 4 carries for 63 yards and caught 6 passes for 33. And he had a heck of a game. He did.
Because he is a heck of a guy.
Mr. Unpredictable.
You know what I will say, Courtney? I do think Tavon Austin would benefit from being on a different team. I think he'd be a completely different player because he's explosive and he's got the potential. He's just stuck on the Rams. The poor guy.
No, he's a Kenny Stills. He's a boomer bust player. He's got the speed. He's the deep threat. He's done. It's over.
No, but he also runs the ball. He does everything.
That's true.
He does everything. He does everything.
It's true.
They just have such a horrible offense. They can't really utilize him, and they have no quarterback to throw the ball.
I think he's a little more like Travis Benjamin.
Nah, he's not as good as Travis Benjamin.
Okay.
Well,
and also Travis Benjamin doesn't do a lot of rushing. I don't know why I said that.
Anyway, I was like,
I think it's someone who's
Benjamin's a deep ball threat. He's good for like the one deep ball to just get you your fantasy points you need, and then you're just gonna hope he catches some of his other targets.
Yeah.
Tavon Austin's a bit more of a utility player. They just don't have anyone to utilize that, sadly. Anyway, it's not a great matchup for him, so I would not play him this week. Because, again, I would not want to not make my playoffs because I had boom and bust on Austin in there. No, thank you. I'll move on from that. Kickers do matter, guys. Greg Zuerlein, his hip did not practice on Wednesday. He's questionable. There's a good chance he may not play. So make sure that if you have him, that you are looking elsewhere for other options. Don't just assume he's going to be in your lineup, okay? Don't do that. And in Case Keenum, like I said, he was limited in practice Wednesday. There's a chance he plays. There's also a chance he doesn't. Either way, neither quarterback is good enough to really make it a viable option for you for any receivers. You just got to hope that one of them can perform semi-well enough that Todd Gurley will go off for you. So
I ranked one of them 32. And if the other one plays, he'll be ranked 32.
So did you include both in your rankings, and one was 31 and one was 32? Or one's 32 and 33 if I had another one?
No, I just decided one was enough. If we've gotten down to 32, you're not in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. Too
So
sure.
Give up now. Give up now.
Atlanta Falcons 6-5. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5-6. The biggest news out of Atlanta is that Devonta Freeman has been cleared to play on Sunday and has passed all concussion protocols.
Although Tevin Coleman was
Hallelujah.
pretty good.
Much better than I thought he'd be.
Tevin Coleman did pretty good.
He fumbled in both games.
Yeah, but he was better than we thought
better,
he'd be.
yeah.
9 fantasy points. I guess we should be excited.
Hey,
I don't know.
Todd Gurley got you 2.
Okay. Don't even compare the two. Don't even do that. That's rude. That's gross. It's
I'm
me.
just saying.
Take it back.
I'm just saying.
Anyways, last week was a really bad week for Atlanta. We all knew that was coming.
The last month's been a bad month.
It has been a bad month. The players had a private meeting this week after losing 4 weeks in a row. So hopefully they can get their crap together, and I'm sure that they are very thankful. Thanksgiving came a little late that Devonta Freeman is back this week because it's definitely an important role in their offense, and they need that pumping from the meeting, hopefully. And it's like somebody probably needs to get fired for Atlanta to turn things around. But
Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, there it is. Good stuff, Brandon.
I left it for you, Brandon. I left it.
She just teed it up for you right there. She's giving you an opportunity to completely rag on Kyle Shanahan.
Yes. Tevin Coleman was the man to fill in for Freeman. We talked about this earlier and showed why he is the backup, not the starter after losing another fumble. You can put him back on your bench. It's over. Tampa Bay defense is pretty good against the run, but I think Freeman will still be able to be in that mid-teen fantasy points, so you can definitely start him. As for Matt Ryan, he had another multiple turnover game.
Talk about implosion.
He is
Consistent.
horrible.
He's consistent, guys. He's consistent.
Consistently bad.
But you know what? He's really
right.
screwed over Julio Jones fans right now too. Like that's.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of other good quarterbacks you could have streamed, but you drafted Julio first. That was your first pick.
Yeah. Minnesota is a tough defense, so, I mean, I'm not taking that away from them. They are tough, and they have been in a slump.
Agreed.
So, it's not like they were going up against Indianapolis and failed. It's, it was a tough defense, But he cannot be trusted. He was able to get 20 fantasy points last time they played, though. In fact, more yards than any other game this year. The floor is so low. His best game is 23 fantasy points this year, so play at your own risk. I suggest not doing so. You can't bench Julio. Sorry, he sucked last week. I get it. He had 20 fantasy points last time he met Tampa Bay, so you have to do it. Jacob Tamme is still available in 3/4 of leagues, so if you need 6 fantasy points from your tight end, pick him up, you guys. No word on Leonard Hankerson. I just think that this is kind of Tamme he gets a lot of targets, so I'm not against it. And Tampa Bay's only in the middle of the pack when it comes to tight ends. In deep leagues, Roddy White has seen 17 targets in the last 2 weeks, you guys. So if you really need to stretch, really stretch, these targets are there. So, and keep an eye on the kicker situation. Matt Bryant may return this week after injuring his quad. If he is a no-go, then it will be Shane Graham. Done.
All right, Tampa Bay. I'm going to start with a sleeper here. This guy named Cameron Brate. He is the backup tight end behind the mysterious Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
That alleged player we can never see.
The phantom known as Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
What a great name to be a phantom player of it, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Who, by the way, is listed as questionable.
Of course he is.
Per usual.
Per year. Yeah.
I thought that Brate was a bit of a flash in the pan, and I keep hearing this Austin Seferian-Jenkins garbage, and so I kept kind of ignoring him. But, listen, 2 back-to-back games of scoring touchdowns. He had 4 and 6 targets in the 2 outings. The only other time he had over 40 yards and or a touchdown was when the Bucs played the Falcons.
There we go.
So it's actually kind of one of those sleeper picks that actually makes sense. So there you go. Especially if you play daily, it's a long shot, but one that's mathematically worth taking. The last time these teams met, Mike Evans was bad. He only caught 3 of his 9 targets. Classic. For 48 yards.
Oh, Evans.
Yeah. Evans' production seems to have taken a little bit of a hit with the return of Vincent Jackson due to his drops. Surprise, surprise. You still have to start him, though. And then this is a bad matchup. They give up the second fewest points to opposing wide receivers, so I don't love it. The whole team stunk it up, actually, the last time that they played. But I'm willing to throw Doug Martin back in there because Atlanta gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And Doug Martin's gotten better over the season, and he actually hit 1,000 yards.
That is so shocking. I thought he was going to be done for. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm good for him, right? Winston, up and down rookie season. It is what it is. I'm not quite sure I'm telling you to plug him in on this one. Sorry, especially with the wide receiver issues. But the Tampa Bay defense might be a sneaky option with Matt Ryan deciding that he's serving people the ball on a platter. The Falcons, 5 of the 7 defenses that have faced the Falcons most recently have had double-digit fantasy points.
I can't imagine why.
I know, it's shocking.
Oh, Seattle Seahawks. Sex Hawks. That's what I said.
Not that team.
Minnesota Vikings.
It is late.
3. Stop it. Freudian slip there. Seahawks.
Seahawks. The Sex Hawks.
Sex Hawks.
Jimmy Graham, guys, very, very, very sad.
This is
sad news. Huge hit. Now, granted,
Huge hit too.
That was a bad play on words. I did not mean it that way. But he did go down the 4th quarter last week, and he is out for the season with a torn patella tendon. He has been placed on IR. He underwent surgery on Wednesday. And I do want to remind people, this is the injury that Victor Cruz still has not made it back into the NFL for.
It's really bad.
I don't want to.
Even Clowney had the same one.
I don't want to scare you, but this is a really bad one. This is not a quick recovery. This is, I don't think we're even going to get a 2016 update yet from him. I don't,
Cody Nelson.
I don't
too soon, guys. Too soon.
He's not ready. He's not ready for it. But this is a big hit because while Jimmy Graham has made the touchdowns, that's the thing. His yardage is still there, like from last year. He just wasn't getting the touchdowns. He had like a total of like 3 touchdowns compared to 10. Where he was last week. But he still is getting the yards, and he still is a top 10 tight end.
More than that,
when all
he
is
was
said
a
and done.
threat on the field, and people had to
defend him.
And they had to defend him. And they need as a big body because they've got little teeny tiny Russell Wilson. So, and they got problems with the running game. So this is a huge. It's a huge hit. I'm sorry. I feel bad for everybody. I will say though, Luke Wilson, he may actually be someone to pick up if you were desperate, just because he is a target that Russell Wilson has proved to actually throw to, and he feels comfortable with Luke Wilson. So think about it. I don't expect a lot of points, but if you're desperate, and you might be, it's something to think about. Russell Wilson, he had a game. These are the kind of games. This is what always sneaks him in the top 10 quarterbacks. Always at the end of the season. He doesn't play great the first part of the season, and at the end of the season, there he is. Oh, magically, he's a top 10 quarterback.
They call that clutch.
Oh, is that right?
Don't get me no, I'm not even going to get there. I'm going to be nice to the show. I'm going to be nice. Anyway, he had a great game. He was 21 of 30 pass attempts for 345 yards. He never gets over 300, so good for you. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's a fantastic game. I love it. Good work. Doug Baldwin had a heck of a game, too. I didn't think he would do it. He has had 2 back-to-back great games. He had 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. Naturally, let's say Steelers, and then I was going to say the Sex Hawks, the Seahawks. In Seahawks fashion, this probably means Doug Baldwin will do nothing else the rest of the season.
Are you starting Russell Wilson this week, though?
I feel like
I was going to ask. I think he might. I think because of the Jimmy Graham thing.
I think because of the Jimmy Graham thing, he might actually still produce for you. So I think you can play Doug Baldwin. You can actually play Jermaine Kearse as well, quite honestly. He also put up some points. So I feel okay with it. You've got Rawls, who's still the option.
You guys are crazy.
It's not a great matchup.
It's crazy. It's Minnesota.
I wouldn't play them this week. I'm saying rest of season.
Okay, I asked this week, though, and you guys were like, yeah. And I'm like, no. It's Minnesota.
The Vikings
defense is good.
They're a sneaky good defense. They do.
They're
They give
really good.
6th fewest points to quarterbacks, 5th fewest to running backs, 11th fewest to wide receivers. It's a tough defense.
It's not sneaky anymore. It's week 13. They're a good defense. They're just good.
I'm just saying there's been injuries and
Courtney is like gonna smack down on this one. She's
you're
like, we're done with
underestimating
Seahawks.
my teams here, people.
Courtney, I have very little faith in the Vikings.
Okay.
Until
When we
this
come
week.
back next week and Tannehill has killed it, I can't wait.
That's right. That's right.
Guys, don't jinx me.
Hey,
So
you're jinxing
mean.
yourself with that one.
Listen. The Vikings defense is legit. It's the offense that we have an issue with, and that's okay.
Yes.
Because defenses win championships. So, unfortunately not
I
for
feel
your
like I'm wearing my
fantasy
purple.
team, though. You are. I like that. Listen, if you look at last week's points for Minnesota, that is like just how it's going to be. It's going to be Adrian Peterson. He is the offense. Then maybe Teddy Bridgewater is going to be next, but nothing worth your start. You have Diggs and Rudolph that will kind of going to go back and forth depending on what Teddy's in the mood for. But listen, Minnesota has a better record when Teddy doesn't throw the ball. So this is what it is. They're going to be running. They're not going to be throwing a lot. I love Diggs, but he's been down the last few weeks. I think you can only start him in deep leagues, especially against Seattle. This is obviously a tough matchup for everyone. And it does look like a good matchup for Rudolph, but only 2 tight ends have been able to get 7 fantasy points or more in the last 5 weeks. So it's really not that great for tight ends either. So, sorry, this offense is just not fantasy worthy unless you have AP. Minnesota could be a defense to stream, as I just told you. And kicker Blair Walsh has been struggling the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But he might have a nice game this week. Even if he misses 1, he might get, 2 or 3 and a couple extra points. So, this might be a low-scoring game, and it might all be extra. It might be all field goals. So
Maybe a Blair Hush
Chris
game.
Boswell was one of the top kickers last week because of the same thing. Pittsburgh against Seattle.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, this might be good. I know Blair stunk. It's really frustrating to watch him, but that he might do okay this week.
Well, know your league too, because in some leagues you don't lose points for missed kicks.
Yeah, we don't.
Other
we don't
leagues-
lose. Yeah, a
Some
lot of
leagues-
leagues you don't lose.
some
Right?
leagues
a
you do,
lot
though.
of leagues you do, though. A lot of leagues you
ESPN
lose
leagues, yeah.
points if your kicker misses a field goal. So know your league too, because you're right, Courtney. If he just misses 1 and you're in a league where you don't lose points, no big deal. He's probably got a lot more opportunities.
Right.
If you're in a league where they lose points, a little bit dicier start.
True that. San Francisco 49ers 3-8. The Chicago Bears 5-6.
Okay, you guys, I've glossed over this team because they've been so absurd, but it's time to congratulate them for not completely imploding. In fact, I am more impressed with the San Francisco 49ers than I am the Atlanta Falcons.
All right.
Who else is imploding?
I was like, that's where it stopped.
Okay, well, anyway.
So you're more impressed than the
I hate
Falcons
Kyle
than the rest of them.
I lost my train of thought, but I'm sure there are other bad teams.
You and every other NFL team that plays them, they just completely lose the train of thought and then they lose.
Yeah, no, it's
They don't
true.
lose.
It's true.
They almost lose.
Anyway, okay. Well, Houston last week,
that
against the
was
Rams, just didn't show up on the offensive side of the ball whatsoever. So, anyway, don't get too cute. But since starting Blaine Gabbert, the team has yet to score over 16 real points in the real football game. Okay, that's the reality.
It's fantasy gold there.
But Blaine Gabbert threw for over 300 yards last week. Bridgewater's only done that once. Russell Wilson's only done that once, and they've started every game this season. So I do want to put that out there. Carlos Hyde is still listed as day-to-day. You can't count on him. But this is weird, but Sean Drone literally played every single snap last week. That is extremely rare. In fact, I was trying to look for another running back that's done that this year, but usually they go in and out. He literally played every single offensive snap last week.
How many points did he get?
He got 20 touches, 15 carries, 5 receptions. I think he got like 11 points. But he's more of a PPR option because he's getting like 5 receptions a game. So if you're full point PPR, Sean Drawn.
Yeah.
Real deal. Garrett Selleck is out indefinitely due to a high ankle sprain. Vance McDonald, though, will play in his stead and had a nice game last week, catching 6 of his 7 targets for 71 yards and a touchdown. Gabbert likes him. It's a little crazy, but it's true. The week before, he caught all 4 of his targets for 65 yards and a touchdown. So it's not that fluky. It's really happening. It's not a great matchup. They give up the 4th fewest points to tight ends, but have them on your radar. And it doesn't really matter because everyone self-implodes when they play San Francisco.
True.
So,
True.
About it. Anquan Boldin has back-to-back 93-yard outings. What a weird number, by the way, to have back-to-back.
I like
93 yards.
I love him.
Exactly. But he's getting a lot of targets now that he's back from injury. You guys, this is crazy. But if you have injury issues, I just named a bunch of players that you can possibly play and not be insane. Torrey Smith, though, is not an option. I just want to remind you, can't seem to get more than 3 targets.
Terrible.
And on to the Bears. Speaking of San Francisco not being good, they are not good on defense. They really are not.
Shocking.
Jay Cutler and the Bears had tough 2 games in a row facing Denver and Green Bay. No one wants to do that. But look for Cutler to bounce back here. Now, they did beat Green Bay. That was really interesting on Thanksgiving. Green Bay, other implosion. What is happening? I think you can start a lot of people on this team.
Yeah,
I do. The 49ers defense is tougher. It's been a little tougher over the last few weeks because, I don't know, they don't have Colin Kaepernick giving up points random willy-nilly. They've only allowed 1 or less touchdown to 4 of their last 5 opponents for quarterbacks. But I have a funny feeling. I know that's analysis, right? Hashtag analysis. But I think Cutler will be fine. Why? Because his weapons are healthy.
Yeah.
You were going to sing. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut that off.
It's okay. No, it's totally good. I was like, back up.
Well, that's your
Back up.
daughter's favorite songs.
I got a feeling. Ooh. I'm sick. I can't, really rock it out like I want to. Yeah, she loved it. Yes.
All right. So on to bad news. Forte and Langford are splitting snaps almost directly down the middle. Forte had 38 snaps to Langford's 31. Langford got the goal line work, so he scored the touchdown, but Forte had more touches. It's literally just completely up to coaching as to what happens. There's a possibility that they were easing Forte in, but really the touchdown is the only difference. They both had exactly 53 yards. And then Langford dropped passes and almost caused an interception.
Wait, Forte had 38 yards or 38 touches?
No,
38
touches.
snaps.
Or snaps, I'm sorry.
Okay,
38 snaps, I'm sorry. Not touches. Oh my gosh. Yeah, easing him in at 38 touches.
Yeah, I was like,
No. He played 38 snaps to Langford's 31.
Gotcha.
So actual time in the game was split.
Gotcha. Okay.
They both had 53 yards, but Langford had the touchdown. That was the difference. And Langford was not good in the passing game.
Well,
So
that's
I would-
Forte's specialty is a passing game. So,
It was Langford's while Forte was out too.
Yeah.
well, but now Forte's back. Now we're having some performance
are
anxiety.
crazy. Yeah, that's what
Either
it is.
way, against San Francisco, they give up the 5th most points to running backs. They have gotten better, but you may be able to play both of them. I don't think they're bad, either option. It's especially as a flex. They're great flex. Maybe running back 2, I don't know. Alshon Jeffrey, you start him all the time. 11 or more targets in all but 1 game he's played this season.
Love him.
Kevin White is back at practice, speaking of craziness. So he might actually play a game, but you know that John Fox doesn't like rookies. So
No, don't even go there. Yeah.
This one's a head scratcher, though. Martellus Bennett is probable, but prior to his departure, he was losing catches to Zach Miller anyway on a weekly basis. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. It's a bad matchup. I don't know if I'd start either of them, but just to be clear, Miller has scored 4 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks.
That's good.
And I don't think the Bears defense will kill it because they're a little and then Gabbert doesn't turn over the ball the way that Kaepernick did. But I think they're good for 6 points, and they're not going to get negative points. So it depends on where you are with your league. So there you have it.
Thank you, Brandon. Jacksonville Jaguars 4-7. The Tennessee Titans 2-9.
So maybe the worst thing I saw was Alan Hearns being taken off the field.
Oh
on
my
a
gosh.
stretcher. That's been like my consistent core player all season that was so consistent for a touchdown for me. Ugh,
He's like
devastating.
sacrificed his body for this team.
He really has. And hopefully he's going to speedy recovery. It's a concussion. He is day-to-day. It's still up in the air for his status, whether he's going to play the Titans or not. I don't know. Marquise Lee would get the start in Hearn's place if he doesn't play. But Lee has missed the last 6 out of the 8 games, so he's not exactly a healthy buck himself. So I don't think you can even remotely count on this. But what I will say is that Julius Thomas benefits by Hearns being out.
Yeah.
So if you have Julius Thomas, you're thinking about playing Julius Thomas, make sure that you're checking to see Alan Hearn's status, because Thomas ended the game with 9 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. It was a great game for him. And again, part of that is because that touchdown usually would go to Alan Hearns, and instead it went to Julius Thomas. So he's going to benefit. Make sure you definitely are checking Hearns' status for Julius Thomas owners. TJ Yeldon, another subpar performance as we expected, 36 yards off 9 touches, 4 catches, 46. Just, standard okay stuff. He's always good to get you around 6 to 8 points. He's a flex kind of guy. You can't really even start him in an RB2 role. Honestly, you can't do it. It is what it is. But what is interesting is Blake Bortles, guys. He leads the NFL with 50 completions for passes that were 20 yards or more, while at the Jaguars wide receiver Allen Robinson, the other half of the Allen brothers, he is also top of the NFL with 21 catches for things 21 yards or over. These are the 2 guys that you like to stack together, and they're magic. So whether the Jags are winning or not, you don't care. They're fantastic together. He's also the kind of guy to get you the balls with Hearns out. So, and Jason Myers, the kicker, he was limited in practice as well. So check to make sure his status. I don't think anyone's playing Myers. You shouldn't be, but you never know. People are streaming kickers. Weirder things have happened. Make sure he's playing if you're going to start him.
I love him.
Shut up.
Yeah. Do you have strong feelings?
Him and Casey Keenum. He just I love them.
Yeah.
Love them. All right, well, the Titans, let's see here. They did just about what I said they were going to do. You start Delaney Walker, of course. He had 6 receptions for 91 yards. Week before against the Jags, he had 8 receptions for 109 yards. He's a 6th tight end in fantasy points, and with 2 of them is questionable this week, he continues to be a must-start. So no questions there. Yeah. Marcus Mariota had over 19 fantasy points. Not bad. Better than Cam Newton, Carson Palmer, Brian Hoyer, and Aaron Rodgers, among other quarterbacks with good matchups. So he may have a similar game this week. He had 18.14 fantasy points against the Jags 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of where we're at. Another 18, 19 points. As for receivers, it goes Kendall Wright, Harry Douglas, then Darrell Green Beckham. And that is how it's going to always work. It's a decent matchup, but play them at your own risk. Obviously I wouldn't stretch for these guys. So that's all I have to say about that. I can never predict the Titans running game. I just can't anymore. I'm over it. Sorry. Yeah, Andrews was outscored last week by Jalston Fowler, whoever that guy is. He only got 5 yards, but he found the end zone, which is more than you can say about Andrews. So, listen, it's playoff time. I just don't feel confident in these guys. I wouldn't do it. And if Alan Hearns is out, I would stream the Tennessee Titans defense for sure. They had 9 fantasy points against the Jags 2 weeks ago, with 4 sacks, 1 interception, and 1 fumble recovery. So Tennessee Titans is definitely a legit defense to stream, as are the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think they're both going to get pressure and turnovers. So there's that. Houston Texans 6-5, the Buffalo Bills 5-6.
I'm so angry with the Houston Texans after blowing it against the New Orleans Saints, and the New Orleans Saints were still not a good defense.
No.
It was unbelievable. And you know what it was is that they almost treated it like a practice. They started doing wildcat and weird kind of
like Philadelphia play.
Oh,
even weirder.
good.
No,
Courtney got her
no.
Chip Kelly hated. There we go.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm so excited for the Chip Kelly hate. But yeah, I don't understand. He had his worst game of the year against New Orleans. Brian Hoyer did. Okay. I I don't know what to say about him. I mean, you're probably not starting him. You don't care. Buffalo's not really a tough defense.
But even that, like his worst game, he still got, I think, 14 points or something, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, he didn't like bomb.
But who the hell
Peyton
gets 14
Manning.
points against New Orleans? I get it,
Right.
it's a new defensive coordinator, and like things happen. But who the hell gets 14 points? You can't
But
trust me.
Hoyer's not exactly like a clutch quarterback that you're going to depend
Doesn't
on.
matter. I played Kirk Cousins against New Orleans. You don't have
Yeah.
to be clutch to play against New Orleans.
Courtney,
That's the whole point of starting a quarterback against New Orleans.
What season have we come to that we are debating Kirk Cousins and Brian Hoyer?
It's bad.
2015, baby.
But
That's where we
between
are.
The worst,
I would
worst
put Cousins
era.
over Hoyer.
This is
a good
what
matchup.
I'm going to say.
No.
I actually, no. Brian Hoyer has been unbelievably consistent. 17 or more fantasy points in every single game that he completed as the undisputed starter up until he played New Orleans. It was bizarre. DeAndre Hopkins only got 8 points.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? It's like, what happened? What happened? And this is also where sometimes the best call doesn't always work out. There was no reason to bench either of them. Zero reason. You cannot feel bad about it. But it does make me gun shy about wanting to start them. Well, I'm always starting DeAndre Hopkins, but Hoyer, I don't know. Alfred Blue did all right, though. 77 rushing yards and a touchdown and 1 catch for 4 yards. That's what it is. But he's questionable with a back injury, was limited in practice today. Every team that's played against the Bills has one guy with 10 or more fantasy points in standard scoring, except for the Colts in Week 1 and the Dolphins in Week 3. But then the Dolphins played them again in Week 9, and Miller scored
Went off.
26.1 points against them. So, listen, you can run against the Bills. And so Alfred Blue, oddly enough, is the guy I would stream from this offense. That's weird.
If he
but
doesn't play, would you go Grimes?
yes.
All right. I was going to say yes, too, actually.
Yeah, I would. I think this is a good matchup. Cecil Shorts and Nate Washington, they're involved with the game. Shorts is more upside. He's just, he's doing all this wildcatty weird things that they're doing. I don't understand it. Anyway, remember when I said Ryan Griffin's name? Yeah, he had a huge game. Caught 4 of his 5 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown. This is a bad matchup, but in really large leagues where you need like a touchdown upside, meh. And the Houston's defense is killing it. Since Week 6, they've only had 1 game under 8 points in standard scoring, so check them out against the Bills.
Perfect. Bills.
Well, Sammy Watkins, that was a good call, Brandon, when we were calling. Well, Hartline didn't have a terrible game either, but
He didn't have an awful game, but I felt really bad. I was like, I hope he did not listen to me.
Sammy went off.
Sammy Watkins had all
In
of
the
them
first
against a
half.
terrible game.
You know what I
Yeah.
loved about it?
Only
It was
in the first half. I hate
It
Sammy.
was only first half, but you know what? It was classic Sammy. It was deep ball passes to Sammy, breaking off, beating a corner. I loved it. Graham was only 1 half, so that was a little discouraging. But, he still had 6 catches for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. You gotta feel good about that. He's got too much. He's got too much upside to bench. He does, and unfortunately, it's not a great matchup because the Texans give up the 8th fewest points to wide receivers. But we're not looking at shutdown corner situations, and that's where Sammy fails is when there's a shutdown corner.
Yes.
So it's a good defense, but there's not this fantastic corner that we need to be worried about. So I'm still okay with Sammy this week. Tyrod Taylor, he went 21 for 38, 291 yards. He also rushed for 46, which is what's great about Tyrod is that he can run the ball. Kansas City, they get the 12th fewest points to quarterbacks, which is, it's a middle-of-the-pack defense for the most part, nothing to be too scared about. So there's potential there for Taylor. Carlos Williams, he hurt his shoulder. His status is up in the air whether he's going to play. But honestly, I'm not sure he's going to get much playing time anyway because LaShawn's been running well. He's run for 514 yards the last 6 games.
It's over.
It's over. It's Shady's team at this point. Carlos Williams is fantastic in the season, but they're not going to turn to Carlos. I don't think they're going to risk putting him in early for a shoulder when Shady's running the way he is. They're just not going to. But the good news, you can feel good about Shady, and you don't have to worry about potentially vulturing touchdowns with Carlos Williams, because for a while there he was getting the goal line looks. So you can feel good about Shady's going to be able to score well. So I like him a lot this week.
Right, Baltimore Ravens and Miami Dolphins.
Ooh, Matt Schaub. Hot, hot, hot. Just kidding. It was 14 points. I'm sorry. Did you just laugh out loud with the pick 6? Were you like,
Loved it.
Matt Schaub. Oh my gosh. I cry for him at night. It's
Whatever.
Something
only
happened
cried because
Got
you're
the
wondering
W.
if
He got the W.
He got the
That's all
W.
that matters.
because of the blocked kick disaster zone.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
He got the W.
Okay.
there are worse backup quarterbacks in matchup. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Certainly.
I've been such a hater of him for years. I can't believe I'm defending him. But
There's Matt Castle.
there's well, Brandon Whedon.
EJ Manuel.
EJ Manuel went over 20 points when he scored.
AJ Manuel's pretty good. I'd take
Which,
him.
talent-wise, is shocking, but
Yeah.
that's the reality.
Yeah.
So anyway, they worked out Ryan Mallett.
Yeah, I hate
Wanna
this.
put that
I
out
hate
there.
this.
It's okay. It's just because they need a backup. They don't
I know.
They need a backup to the backup.
But he brings bad energy.
Of course he does. Anyway,
So.
Ryan Mallett. Kamar Aiken is one of my favorite pickups of the year. I have him in a ton of leagues. His workload is crazy. Last week, 10 targets. He caught 6 of them for 80 yards and a touchdown. 2 back-to-back weeks with a touchdown, and he has another good matchup this week against the Miami Dolphins. And Javorius Buck Allen, only 12 carries, but he went for 55 yards and caught all of his targets for 29 yards and a touchdown. Great matchup, must play. He's the workhorse. You know, why not? Chris Givens only had 1 catch for 48 yards. That's who he is, deep ball guy. And Terrence West sighting, 7 carries for 37 yards in his revenge game.
I was going to say, it's because it was his
37.
revenge game. That's only why.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we'll do
They're not
37
going to
carries.
play him again.
Crockett Gilmore wasn't involved as much as I thought he would be. I was a little surprised by that. Only 3 catches for 20 yards. He could bounce back, but I don't know. I'm waiting for that one. Baltimore defense could be a good play. Why? Back-to-back double-digit performances with multiple sacks and or interceptions. And since week 8, the opposing defenses have scored 7 or more fantasy points on Miami. Miami.
Ashley and I are in a Yahoo league with Brad Evans from Yahoo, and it's a 16-man, 2-quarterback league. And
It's brutal.
so I have Ryan Tannehill as one of my quarterbacks, and I wanted to pick up Baltimore's defense. Ashley, you should go pick him up to stream this week. But I was like, I cannot play Baltimore against my
Tannehill.
quarterback and Jarvis Landry. I'm just asking for it. So I didn't do it, but if you can do it, you guys, you should totally pick up Baltimore's defense. Like,
Yeah.
more. So I was right and wrong with my analysis. Analysis, thank you, of the
welcome.
Dolphins last week. So, and trust me, I am heavily invested in the Dolphins. I cannot tell you, since drafting, I've got at least one of them on my teams. I can't believe it. I might make the playoffs and all of them. It's crazy. But I told you if you could afford to bench Lamar Miller last week, you should. I hope you did, because that was bad.
It was really bad.
It's the same this week, you guys. I don't know, since Jay Ajayi came back, it's not like Ajayi is doing anything, but
No.
that pressure for Miller is just like too much, and like taking away a few too many touches.
But this is the way
really
he was.
affecting his like groove.
He needs 20 or more touches.
He needs at least 18, and they're giving him like 15, and it's just like he's not getting out there enough to do his thing, and so he's just not doing his thing. And Baltimore gives up the 6th fewest fantasy points to running backs.
Yep.
So again, you guys, I would bench him this week if you can afford to.
He's a psyche guy. Like, remember a couple seasons ago when everyone's like, "Oh, Lamar Miller," and he would always underperform, and it's because he was in competition for the role. He was doing so well at the beginning of the season because it was
just him.
It was just.
Well, he wasn't doing good at the beginning of the season, but the second that the intern coach came, it was like they started giving him touches.
He started getting touches, and he
started giving more touches. He like blew up.
Right.
But now with Ajayi back, they're not giving him quite as many touches, quite as many targets in the air, and it's just really messing with him.
He's a rhythm guy. He's a rhythm guy. He's got to get.
And it's been tough matchups, so you guys just can't. This is another tough matchup for him. So
don't do it.
Elsewhere if you can. I was wrong about Ryan Tannehill. He had 351 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, but 22 fantasy points. I think you can start him this week, you guys. I'm telling you, I really do think you can start him. I do. I know it's crazy. I know it's nuts. So
the self-loathing I would have if I didn't get in the playoffs because of Ryan Tannehill is too much.
Think of all those people who started Brian Hoyer last week, too. You know that they're
millions of people started Brian Hoyer.
New Orleans Saints, you gotta do Brian Hoyer. You know, And I said I did not think he was going to have a monster game like everybody else has had.
But
I didn't think he was going to have 14
we
points.
all said that. We didn't think 14, but...
But, yeah, but Baltimore gives up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a great matchup.
So it's a fantastic matchup. If you add up McCown and Davis from last Monday night, they would have 21 fantasy points. And if 21 fantasy points is enough for you,
should be.
Then you should take the risk, I think. I know it's scary, but I think it's worth taking the risk.
All right. You may have convinced me.
I'm telling you. Jarvis Landry did just fine with Revis on the sideline. That was nice. He had 13 receptions, 165 yards, and a touchdown. Thank you, Revis. I appreciate you not playing because, again, highly invested in Jarvis.
He's probably not going to play this week either. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to blow up.
You guys.
You just, hold on to Odell Beckham Jr.
Seriously. He's a must-start against a weak secondary that gives up 30 fantasy points to receivers from Cleveland. I thought there was only one receiver on Cleveland, so it's crazy. Please start him. Rashard Matthews is still sidelined this week, so if he does not start, it is Devontae Parker, you guys. He had 10 targets last week and found the end zone for the first time this season. Again, scary pick, but this is the best matchup to play him. So if you had a receiver go down or you have a really bad wide receiver 3 or flex, with 10 targets, there's worse options out there. Cincinnati Bengals 9-2 at the Cleveland Browns.
The Browns are really bad, guys.
No,
really defense it's bad. So I'm going to run through it because my write-up is so short for the Bengals because what's the point of writing anything up on this? So it's the Browns give up the 6th most points to quarterbacks, the 6th most points to running backs, the 6th most points to wide receivers. Are you seeing a trend here? 15th most to tight ends, 13th most to kickers, and again, that little 6 number, 6th fewest, in fact, though, to defenses because their offense, throw, they're great offense. So, here's the deal. Here's the deal. You got to play them all. Bernard and Jeremy Hill, they continue to split the carries, and I can't get into it because I literally cannot mentally, at this time of night, have the capacity to still understand what in the world the offensive coordinator for the Bengals is thinking. I'm over it. We're in playoffs. I need to move forward. But Hill did suffer an ankle injury in last week's game against the Rams. So he said that he's okay. He's still questionable. He probably will play. But, again, they give the 6 most points to running backs. I think both of them could have a good game. I think you could play both of them, honestly. Usually with committees, we tell you to stay away from them, but they're such different runners. You can kind of get away with playing with both. And usually I tell you to stay away from Hill because Bernard is a 4th quarter guy. He's the more consistent of them. But I think Hill could have a good game. Andy Dalton.
Balls into the end zone.
He does literally. They're like, let me give you the little gift on the 1 yard line so you can just run it in even though they haven't done anything else the rest of the game. I told you I was going to be better. We're moving on. Andy Dalton. I love him. Per usual. 3 touchdowns. It's like clockwork for him. I love it. 20 of 27, 233 yards. Another great game. Those are over the Rams, who allegedly have a decent defense. They've been kind of fallen off recently. But Eifert, another touchdown, 12th of the year. He's fantastic. You got to play him. Again, like we said, he doesn't get the yards, but you shouldn't care because he always gets the touchdown. It doesn't matter. Play him. AJ Green, he came back with another big game. 2 touchdowns. He had 61 yards. You're playing him. You're playing everybody, guys. It's a great matchup. You're literally playing everyone.
Love it. Well, you guys, Austin Davis is the new quarterback for the Cleveland Browns now that Josh McCown has broken his clavicle. And once again, Coach Mike Pettin hates Johnny Manziel.
He did say it's week to week, and I'm like, oh, you're so PC right now, Pettin. You're so PC.
It's only week to week because the owners might come down and just strangle him.
They might. How did they word it earlier? We're happy to help when they mandated that they play Manziel. We're happy to help.
Pettin said Austin took advantage of his opportunity on Monday night. He was prepared, played well, and put us in the position to win. And all I could think of was, unlike Johnny Manziel. Kind of like when you read your fortune, and at the end you add in bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Unlike Johnny, after everything that he said.
Unlike Johnny.
Listen, he could throw the ball. He had a decent game. I actually don't think this is a big downgrade from Josh McCown for Gary Barnidge, for Travis Benjamin. I think that if you are in the type of situation where you've been using those players, I think you can still use them. I don't feel bad about them moving forward as far as Brian Hartline's concerned. 8 catches for 70-some yards, you can't really argue with that. So I'm okay with that. I think that what you need to do is just kind of realize you're swinging for the fences because you're playing a Cleveland Brown and absorb that and move forward.
But sometimes you're in a position you have to swing for the fences right now to try to make a playoff. So
yeah. Listen, this is not a good matchup for anyone. But who cares? They have the 5th fewest quarterbacks, 10th fewest running backs, 12th fewest of wide receivers, 11th fewest of tight ends. But if you have Gary Barnidge, you have to start him, especially with all these injuries. So there you have it. And there's not much to analyze, you guys, other than Isaiah Crowell has yet to put up more than a point in back-to-back games. And Duke Johnson is more productive, but only in week 2 did he get more than 10 carries in a game.
You can't handle them.
They're the best. All right, Kansas City Chiefs 6-5 at the Oakland Raiders 5-6. Brandon.
Okay, so the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, well, let's talk about this real quick. So Travis Kelce, Alex Smith hasn't thrown an interception since week 3. Let's start with that.
Really? Oh, wow.
How crazy is that?
That's why they're winning. It's hard to throw an interception when you're only throwing 10 yards.
He throws more than 10 yards.
He has been better this year.
Yeah.
Barely.
Okay, so Oakland gives up, I believe it's the 4th most yards per game to quarterbacks passing. But they give up actually 16th most yards per attempt, which means perfect for the check down.
It is perfect for the check down.
I think this might be a decent Alex Smith game. So, and he created this connection with Macklin last week that finally exploded, which actually just ticked me off. Frankly, it's frustrating.
Me too. He's on my bench, and I lost to Mom because of it.
Finally, I say no more, Macklin. I believe in you, but I just can't do this anymore. What does he do? He catches 9 of his 11 targets, yards, and a touchdown. I lost my mind. I was like, no. He only had 3 catches in every single game since week 5.
So annoying. So annoying.
But hey, everyone in that offense went off. And Charkandrick West is coming back.
He's questionable. He's probably going.
Yeah, but he's practicing in full.
So
yeah, he's fine. I think they're probably going to go back to Charkandrick West. But Spencer Ware did really, really well. So I don't know. But I think if you have Charkandrick West, you can't put him on your bench.
No.
Especially against the Raiders. You can't do that. So Travis Kelce had a touchdown last week, which was his first since week 3. Listen, this is a good matchup. Keep your fingers crossed. Go for it. Oakland gives up a ton of points to tight ends. So I'm staying away from the defense, though, because I'm a Derek Carr believer.
I'm a believer, too, Brandon. We told you he was going to bounce back.
Yeah.
And he did.
One bad game, guys. One bad game.
Don't freak out. He's been good all season.
Yep.
And they freak out. 24 of 37 passes. Over 300 yards, guys. 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Don't panic. Let's give it the same thing. On paper, this does not look great. 9th fewest points to quarterbacks. I don't care. You're playing him. It's Derek Carr, guys. He's done great all season. Do it. Amari Cooper. He's been hot and cold all season. He had 7 catches on 12 targets for 115 yards. So this was an up week against the Titans. Now, probably he's going to have an even bigger game because he would have had a bigger game, but Carr was really spreading the ball around, such as with even Seth Roberts, who had 6 catches for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs do not defend the pass well. This is where they really struggle. They give the 2nd most points to wide receivers, so that's going to even out that bad matchup on paper for Derek Carr. So I like that. I like all of them this week. I think you could possibly even go with Seth Roberts and Daly. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I think they could all have a really big game. I love it. Latavius Murray, he's per usual, is what it is. 50-some, 60 yards. You're going to get 6 points. That's what you're going to get. Flex only, people. Flex only.
Sad. Denver Broncos 9-2. The San Diego Chargers 3-8. What a win last week. Whoa. That was crazy. And as a Broncos fan, I just want to let you all know I did cry. Totally cried. As I was jumping up and down, screaming, grabbing my husband in the air, I had tears.
Are you a little surprised that
Water
Brady
eyes.
actually posted a picture of him riding a Bronco. I was almost like, there's no way he posted that. Someone must have had.
Well, he's like I guess he's like really new to social media, and so I don't, he's probably just kind of stupid about it, obviously. But
I do love the Broncos. Then like showed him like bucked off the Bronco. I mean, it's just like. It was kind of it was a funny social media back and forth. I was just kind of like, wow, bold to put that before the game, Brady.
Yeah. But anyways, a few notes we took away from the game. The Broncos found their running game. That was exciting. Their defense is still legit with half of their team out. And those late night text messages between Brock and Sanders clearly meant something to the both of them, because
Netflix and chill.
Strong connection. It's a strong connection there. First off, I know that this is a good matchup for Brock, but I am not doing it unless you're in a 2-quarterback league, you guys. He had 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and that is with 42 attempts. That's a lot of throwing for him.
No.
So it's no go, guys. San Diego is the absolute worst against the run. So, all right, you guys, the running game got their groove last week. They're feeling confident. You can start both Hillman and Anderson. Anderson had 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hillman had 59 yards and a touchdown. Guys, both of them are going to share the ball, and I think they're both going to profit from it. So I'm into it. I know that this says that San Diego is tough against wide receivers, but when you actually look at who they faced against, if it's a strong passing game team like Cincinnati, whatever, New England, it's like they let plenty of fantasy points go. Okay, so I'm not too concerned. And I have a feeling this week that Brock and Demaryius Thomas are going to work really hard together. I have a feeling Demaryius is going to stay up late sending him text messages, because Demaryius had his worst game last week. I mean, it was so painful.
Never have I ever been for his classy response of not saying anything bad about Demaryius Thomas.
I know, so sweet. I was like,
there were people on Twitter being like, cut Demaryius Thomas.
Well, listen, I had him on my team, and I was shouting at this team or at the TV, being like, "Stop throwing to Demaryius! Stop throwing to Demaryius! Don't abandon the run! Don't abandon the run!" And and we're talking about Denver Broncos here, so that was crazy. But it was true. It was just it is what it is. And again, there was weather. There's not going to be weather this week, but listen. I think Demaryius is going to bounce back this week. Do I think he might have more fantasy points than Sanders? Maybe not. I think
he's going to have a huge game this week.
I really think they're going to have some serious work going on between the two of them. So I'm not
going to run a
lot. Demaryius. They are going to run a lot, but I think that they're going to have because they're going to be running a lot, their passing is going to be big plays. So big fantasy points in short amount of receptions is my feeling. I like Denver's defense. Of course, the Chargers give up the 8th most fantasy points to defenses. As for the Chargers, I will start with the defense since I ended with the defense. We usually like defenses against the Denver Broncos. It's usually really good. The Chargers are really bad. So you're just not going to do that. You just can't. Antonio Gates came back last week. 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. If the Chargers can get down the field against Denver, I do think they're going to target Gates in the end zone again. The Broncos do give up the 14th most fantasy points to tight ends, so Gates is a viable option. Phillip Rivers is listed as probable with an ankle issue, but will play on Sunday. He threw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions last week. The Jaguars are not the Denver Broncos. So, don't do that. But the Denver Broncos and San Diego Chargers have a weird relationship, and I think this game is going to be kind of grossly close.
I agree.
And it could be some serious junk points if it's not. So I'm not against Phillip Rivers. Not. But with that said, the Denver gives up the fewest amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks, only allowing 2 quarterbacks to score over 20 fantasy points this year, and that was Brady and Luck. 2 guys that have kind of a rivalry with the Broncos.
Yeah.
And so does Rivers. Just saying. Stevie Johnson is the perfect wide receiver 3 flex guy. He had 7 receptions in each of his last 3 games. But he's only found the end zone once since week 2, so that's not great. But in PPR, it's okay. It's okay. Don't love Inman this week against the Broncos to give up the fewest amount of fantasy points to wide receivers. And I will continue to not love either running back for the San Diego Chargers until they figure out that offensive line. Denver is in the middle of the pack for wide receiver or running backs, but it's week 13 when you get in the playoffs, and I don't trust either one of them. Philadelphia Eagles 4-7 against the New England Patriots. Chip Kelly, I love you. He's the best. No one on this team can be trusted, you guys. I say it every single week. I would like to say it because this is a nice matchup. You might have a good game with this guy named Jordan Matthews, who had a great game last week, but you can't. He hasn't had a back-to-back good game since week 1 and 2, so it's done. I would like to say that Murray should do well since the Broncos ran all over the Patriots last week, but he's had 7 points and 3 points in week 11 and 12. So that's a bummer. Oh, and Sam Bradford is expected to play, but who cares? He has only had 1 game over 18 fantasy points and 4 games under 10 fantasy points. He sucks. And you can't play a defense against the Patriots, especially a defense that's been in negative points the last 2 weeks.
I'm excited to see Belichick completely out-mastermind the alleged mastermind of Chip Kelly. Because I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. Well, Rob Gronkowski was the big news for the Patriots this week. He is not going to return this week. They're listing him as questionable, but it sounds like it's going to be a multiple-week injury. He says he's not going to come back until he's fully recovered. He has a bruised knee. Scott Chandler will take his place. And everyone's calling him like the chalk. And by the way, when we say, sometimes I should explain these things. So a chalk play means that like everyone's playing him. He's a deal. He's a steal, whatever. Philadelphia, that's the only thing they're good at defending is the tight ends. They have the second fewest points to tight ends. So if everyone else is playing them and you're playing daily, I think there are other options that you could have instead. So I'm not playing him personally. Philadelphia is so bad that you can start Brady even though he has no weapons. Supposedly Danny Amendola is optimistic that he'll come back, but he's still limited at practice. He was out last week with a knee injury, but before that he caught 9 passes for 117 yards. LaFell just can't get it together. I don't know what else to say. He only has 1 game of over 66 yards and or more than 4 catches. No touchdowns. Keyshawn Martin is someone that I might actually, if I'm going to really go out there, because listen, Philadelphia gives up the most points to wide receivers. Someone is going to score. I think Keyshawn Martin, they might try to work him in against this really bad defense. It's a possible thing.
It would be something Belichick would do.
Yeah. Well, because they need him to get confidence up if they're going to make this big run into the playoffs without Julian Edelman.
It's the perfect.
And if they're not going to have Rob Gronkowski, someone's got to step up, and clearly Brandon LaFell can't do it. He just can't do it. So I think that there's a possibility that he'll have a big game. This is totally speculatory, and this is all just about thinking. After 2 disappointing weeks, though, I still think I have to go with Blunt. Why? Because Bolden hasn't had over 4 carries in a game yet, and James White only had 1 big week and then no other games over 4 points. But there's a possibility all of them run in that second half, because as far as I'm concerned, this should be big in the first half for them. And those for you in really, really deep leagues, wide receiver Chris Harper was cut. So even though they don't have any wide receivers, they still cut this guy.
How bad do you feel as him? Like, literally, you've lost every receiver. They're like, we're still going to let you go.
We're still letting you go. And start the Patriots defense, period.
All right, Carolina Panthers 11-0. The New Orleans Saints 4-7.
All right, so don't get it twisted, okay? Houston took the week off. They decided to treat New Orleans like a bye week, the way that other people treat San Francisco. They were able to play around, have practice, run Wildcats or whatever. Carolina has no interest in this. They have Cam Newton. It's going to be a killer game, a divisional game. Don't worry about it. New Orleans gives up the absolute most points to quarterbacks and the absolute most points to tight ends. I want everything to do with Cam Newton and Greg Olsen. They don't have any wide receivers. Just block it out. Block it out.
Devin Funchess has come on the back end of the season.
Not if you look at his numbers, no.
Come on. He's got to score touchdowns.
No.
Scores touchdowns.
A touchdown. Let me check that, but I'm 98% sure. Yeah, listen, I don't have a problem with the wide receivers. Okay, no, he scored 2. but it's too inconsistent for me. I don't think they're going to do that because I think it's just going to be the Greg Olsen show, and then I also think it's going to be the Jonathan Stewart show. They don't know how to not give him 21 carries.
Yeah.
It's the magic number for them. So you just have to hold on to it, and I think this time he'll make it into the end zone, and that's why he's kind of been with the points, is because sometimes he scores, sometimes he doesn't, etc. But I feel good about it, and then Drew Brees is at home, so I'm very torn about this. Because he plays so much better at home. But Carolina is such a good defense. So if you need to play Carolina, I wouldn't bench him.
Yeah, screw that.
I mean, don't bench them, but I don't know if I'm like.
Drew Brees is going down this week.
I'm playing him.
There you go.
You're playing Drew Brees against Carolina?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, you're playing Carolina.
I'm playing Carolina defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying there's a chance.
I think I have him ranked. I have him ranked 3rd this week. I'm not sure, but high. Who cares? I don't care. Drew Brees is in La La Land. He's not. The Carolina's defense.
I fully agree with Brand's analysis. And again, like, I wouldn't play the wide receivers either, because when you give up that much points to the tight ends, he's going to be going Greg Olsen. But the only thing, the Jonathan Stewart, I'm like, because if they give the most points up to quarterbacks too, I can see Cam running in for a lot of touchdowns.
Oh yeah, actually, you know who I think might run in touchdowns? Mike Tolbert.
Tolbert might do it too. Yeah, they may.
That's what he does.
You guys, I think this game is going to be 44-12. And I think that it's going to be nuts. I think everybody's going to have a touchdown. It's like, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. It's going to be crazy in Carolina.
Well, I mean, the last time they played, though, let's be real here. Jonathan Stewart only scored 5 fantasy points in standard scoring.
What week was this?
This was in week 3, but Cam Newton scored 29.9.
Let's talk Cam. That's what I'm saying. I think Cam will be the one to score the touchdowns. He'll run that in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, Greg Olsen had 2 touchdowns that week.
Yeah.
Money. Okay. Let's get into the Saints.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say. Here's the deal. I don't love anyone in this team this week. The Panthers fall into, some of the best in each of the categories. So it's not a good matchup for anyone. The Panthers are legit. And Drew Brees is coming off a game in which he had a 45-game streak of scoring a touchdown, and he didn't throw a passing touchdown. This is the first time him and Sean Payton, as a coaching and quarterback unit, have not had a touchdown in a game. So that either means he's going to blow up and have a great game, which is not likely against a very stout Panthers defense. It is more likely because they're at home, but and he only completed 25 of 44 passes for 228 yards. It's just not good. If I had to play anyone from this team, it would be Ingram, because he is the best matchup. But even then, the Panthers give up the 13 fewest points. So talk about bad timing if you are having these Saints players. I own Ingram, and I'm upset. But if you're a Drew Brees owner, like this, I feel like this is like last season when I told you to bench Peyton Manning, which I know sounds like totally feasible this year with how bad Peyton has been. But last year, he was fantastic, and I was like, don't play him. I feel like this is a Drew Brees don't play him situation, which is going to seem weird to you, but.
Sorry.
Life.
All right, Sunday night game. Indianapolis Colts 6-5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers 6-5.
Matt Hasselbeck.
He threw on your bragging pants.
I will. Thank you. He threw for 315 yards. That even surprised me, and 2 touchdowns, which was, I love it. And what's even better is that him and T.Y. Hilton have finally started to connect together, which is really good news for T.Y. Hilton owners. He had 6 catches for 95 yards, and he scored twice. It looked good. It felt good. It wasn't like freak plays. It was executed well. So this is what I like about it. This is fantastic news. You don't have to be worried. And even Dante Moncrief, he had 8 passes for 114 yards. So sometimes a backup comes in, and again, talk about a fantastic backup to have on your team, Matt Hasselbeck. I'll take that for sure. You don't have to be worried. Your receiver's going to be fine. Don't sit there and think, oh, well, Andrew Luck's not in, I'm not going to play them. You still play them. Still do it. They give up the 4th most points to wide receivers, the Steelers do, so this is a great matchup for them as well. So definitely roll out with them. Now, Ahmad Bradshaw, he was put on IR on Monday. This is not good news if you were an Ahmad Bradshaw owner. Granted, Ahmad Bradshaw just joined the team
a week
recently. But there's people that they're so hot on that waiver wire.
I know. I thought for sure he's going to be like a sneaky play towards the playoffs.
Well, they were starting to lean heavier to him versus Gore.
Yeah.
Now, Gore is a little beat up, according to, Pagano. He
Yeah.
says that he's beat up, and that's partly why they signed Bradshaw, and partly why Bradshaw was playing more to kind of rest the vet a bit. They did end up signing Dan Herron as the backup to Frank Gore. Now that Bradshaw's out.
Boom.
I think Gore's gonna do okay this week. I like him better with Bradshaw out, certainly. But they give the fewest points to running backs. So I think he'll do all right. We're talking like maybe 5 points. So we're looking at a flex situation for him. And then what I loved was that Coach Pagano actually had to state that Andrew Luck is still the Colts starting quarterback and will be under center. He's 100% healthy. I'm like, did anyone doubt? Like, I know I'm a Hasselbeck fan, but nobody was thinking that Hasselbeck has replaced Andrew Luck. Crazy.
Well,
Brock might have replaced
Yeah.
Peyton.
Well, there was all that news today. But the Broncos came out real quick to say, I don't know who your source was, but we did not say that. Did you notice that? It was
Their
like
source is probably Peyton Manning.
it was real quick.
he was like,
Yeah.
I need some reassurance. Can you
Yeah,
call
he's
me?
like, yeah, I'm gonna put this fake story out just so I know, they let me know what's going on.
We don't know. We don't. We did not say that.
Steelers. I think you can start all of them. Hello, Ben, the best backup quarterback in the league.
Ever.
I can't.
Is probable, but has been cleared to practice. He had 456 yards last week. Amazing. You start him. D'Angelo Williams tore it up last week against Seattle. Now he faces the Colts to give up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. Yes, please. The Seahawks were successful in taking out Antonio Brown. I will give them that. But that will not be the case this week. Not against the Colts. No, it won't. You should start Brown and Bryant. Bryant is listed as questionable, so keep an eye up on his hip injury throughout the week. I know Wheaton was a moneymaker last week, but that's only because Seattle couldn't focus on all three. It's not going to happen this week unless Bryant is out, and then you can start Wheaton, you guys. It is a good play because there's going to be plenty of fantasy points to go around in that case. But I just don't think he's going to see nearly as many targets against this really bad secondary that's going to be loving up on some Antonio Brown. And if Heath Miller is your tight end, you might start getting yourself ready to replace him. He's listed as questionable. It is not practicing and dealing with rib injury, so not good. And kicker Chris Boswell, we talked about him a little bit earlier, has been in double digits 3 games in a row, only owned in 6% of leagues. You guys, pay attention. Pick him up. Start him. Could make a big difference in close games, you guys, for you to make the playoffs. Monday night game: Dallas Cowboys 3-8 at the Washington Redskins 5-6.
Let me make this quick. Matt Castle is starting again, regardless of the fact that the Cowboys have yet to put Tony Romo on IR, which is insane. It's absurd. No one had good games.
Because they're going to go to the
when he was on.
playoffs. They're going to go to the playoffs.
Right. Except for
the Redskins are ahead in that division.
Right. Darren McFadden had a couple decent games, but it wasn't great. And my whole point is they're playing at Washington, and Washington are 2 different teams. There is away game Washington and home Washington. And home Washington, they have 15 sacks on the year. Okay? In half their games, 15 sacks. Away Washington, 5. Hello.
Yeah.
So their defensive line, their pass rushers, everything that they do is so on point at home. It's not just Kirk Cousins who's better at home, it's their defense too. So I'm not starting anyone from this team except for Darren McFadden because running backs are disaster zones. Jason Witten, I'm sorry, you can find a better tight end. Des Bryant, I am questioning whether I'm going to start him or not. I'm sorry, he has no chemistry with Matt Castle. I say they need to throw him the ball. If I'm the coach, I say you have to throw him the ball. If I'm Matt Castle, I'm trying to give him the ball. But all they're going to do is defend Des Bryant. They're going to let Darren McFadden get a couple yards here or there. They don't care because they're going to pass rush and they're going to murder Matt Castle in the backfield.
Yeah, they're going to rush him, and Matt Castle's going to be throwing serious interceptions.
Yeah, and so anyway, I would also start the Washington defense sneaky.
Agreed. Agreed. So here's the deal. Kirk Cousins, he had a good game last week and was even a top 10 quarterback, but it will be a tough matchup this week, guys. The Cowboys give the 7th fewest points to quarterbacks. They're actually a fairly decent team. Well, they're decent against quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. So they're decent against the pass. Running backs, they allow 7th most points. So for Kirk Cousins, it's not a great matchup.
Matt Jones.
Do not even get me started. Do not. Not at the end of this show, Brandon. Don't get me riled up before I got to go to bed.
Kyle Shanahan.
Anyway.
Chip Kelly.
Okay, well, I think we can find a good deep breath and feel confident starting Deshaun Jackson.
Yes. Love him.
He's put together 2 solid weeks in a row. Again, here at Her Fantasy Football, we tell you that sometimes you got to be okay with guys blowing up on your bench and having them prove it to you. And Deshaun needed to prove it to you after some bad outings. So I think he has. I think he's good. He's that deep threat flash player, and I think he's back to his old self. And I think he's going to be good for at least one deep ball play. I do think so. So I like him. And although Reed hasn't scored 2 touchdowns in the past 2 games, he's been heavily involved in the passing game and has been able to put together some good yardage numbers. So the past 2 weeks he has seen 8 and 9 targets, which is a lot of targets for a tight end, and ended up with 98 yards on 8 catches last week. So it is a tough matchup, but the targets are there. The targets are there for him to be able to actually put up some numbers. And again, in PPR, you're always looking for targets. Now, Alfred Morris actually looked like pretty good last week, and he seemed to be back to starter form. Now, perhaps that is because they didn't turn it over to Matt Jones much, and they finally let Morris kind of get into the groove of things. But this is the Redskins, guys. There is no saying that they will do this again this week. It is the best matchup in the game. So he could be good and could be worth a flex position. But you only, as Courtney will say, only you know how desperate you are to be willing to put any running back from the Washington Redskins in your lineup the week before playoffs, especially if you're on the cusp. I could see it being worth it if you're locked in, but I don't think I would.
I've been holding this back, and we're in week 13, so I'm just gonna, have my moment here. If you've listened to me before this year, you know that I hate RG3. And I am so excited that the Washington Redskins might make the playoffs this year. I cannot even believe it because I am a Kirk Cousins lover and have been since the very beginning. And I've always said he is a backup quarterback. He will always be a backup quarterback even though he's the starter. But he is so much better than RG3. It's crazy. And look at it. Whole teams came around. Even without Deshaun Jackson for most of the season, yes, the record's not great, but they may make the playoffs, and that just really, really gets me excited. So,
what a great way to end the show.
Go Kirk Cousins.
The Redskins are leading arguably one of the worst divisions in football right now. Go Redskins.
RG3 couldn't do it. RG3
That's
couldn't
true.
do it.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did it his rookie year.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Awful. All right. Awesome. Week 13, you guys. Good luck. Last week until most people's playoffs. Hope you put the right guy in. You could always go to herfantasyfootball.com and check out our rankings to help you better pick the dude to stick in that spot. Good luck. Make sure you hop over to herfantasyfootball.com also to subscribe to us so you can get our email Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock Eastern Time so you can play our fun dice game from FanDuel. It's free. So make sure you follow the rules so you can win our wonderful prizes. Also, you can listen to us on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Saturday night from 8 to 10 Eastern. You can call in, ask your questions there as well. You can also tweet us at HerFantasyFB and message us on Facebook.com, HerFantasyFootball. If you have any questions, thank you so much, you guys. Until next week, no more faking it.